Okay, I think we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Client Results Cleanup. I'm Ashley. If we have not met, I am an Airtable and automation expert, and I help coaches use Airtable to manage their online coaching business and streamline it, automate it, all of the things. I have here today Maddie, who is an iconic client. She is a brand photography coach and has an amazing program. We are going to talk about she's been in my Airtable world for a long time. So she actually has a lot of our Airtable systems already set up. So we're going to show you what she's created so far to help track her client results, but then also talk about even further how we can streamline her automations, how we can help actually use her systems to help our clients get even more results, have them fill out their client results trackers and all of the things. So Maddie, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and your program.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. So, my name is Maddie Peschong. I am a brand photographer and coach for brand photographers, specifically photographers who want to pivot into personal brand photography and get their nights and weekends back. I have a group program, which is my signature program called Rebrand, and it is set up to do exactly that to get them charging four figures for brand sessions, nights and weekends not required.
Beautiful. And we're going to dive in by first looking at Maddie's sales page for Rebrand. I'm going to share my screen, and I can always tell when people are tracking their results because it's so apparent on their sales pages. So this is Maddie's beautiful site for Rebrand. Her program promise is confidently charge four figures for brand photography, nights and weekends not required. Very clear, very strong. But the part that I wanted to show y'all is specifically, she has the standard stuff on a sales page that you have, but this section here,
It's
Rebrand
my
has
favorite.
collectively helped photographers book $108,510.19 down to the penny. She knows
And
how
that's not updated. There's more money.
there's more. Yeah, there's always these like rolling results that are coming in, but she has a very like specific result that she's promising her clients, but then she also has the numbers to back it up. And if you see here, the average brand session booked during Rebrand is $1,064. The average client says they're confident increases, and the average client takes 64 days to book a four-figure brand session. These are not numbers based on vibes. Maddie is tracking these things, and the only way to track these things is through Airtable. And so I'm going to show, before we get into like consulting and taking this to the next level, just standard what she's done, because all group programs really should, as I believe, as we're stepping into this new phase of the industry, these group programs are not dying, but you have to prove that your stuff works for people to like trust you. I think a lot of people have some like program hurt, program trauma, and to be able
Totally.
to rely on these numbers and facts gives people like a little bit more faith that the program's actually going to work for them. Do you have any thoughts about that, Maddie, before we actually go look at the rest of your client results tracking?
Yeah, I think the other part of it that like cannot be understated is the confidence that it gives you as the course creator, as the program creator, and as the program leader. I had a lot of feelings about getting into the coaching industry and like what that meant and what I was promising and if I was able to deliver on that promise. And now I can look at the data and say, "Oh, I'm doing this. Like this isn't fluff. Like this is something that's actually happening. People are making more money because of this program."
Yep, totally. So how Maddie is able to track this is she has an Airtable form, and it's a booking tracker. And if you want to actually go through this, Maddie, and tell us
Mhm.
what you track, I know it because I can see the form, but tell us what you're tracking and why this is important for you to be looking at.
Yeah. So the program promise and rebrand is to charge four figures for brand photography. So in a single session, charge four figures. And the reason why like that is the number is because a lot of these photographers are coming from the wedding world where they're consistently booking four-figure clients. And their question is always, well, but can I do that with brand photography? And the answer is yes. So in this form, we're tracking everything that they book with brand photography. So even if it's like a $150 headshot, I still want them to fill this out because it goes toward that collective, like what's the amount that this cohort has booked. So it asks them what is the date that the project was booked. what was the invoice total, and then what has changed is the confidence section. So confidence is another thing that we're tracking, which is a little bit trickier than number, like a number, because it is kind of more vibes. However, I noticed that on a previous form, I was asking them to rate their confidence 1 through 5. And even the students who I feel were like my most confident students would notoriously like give themselves like a 3 or a 4, just not particularly high. And so instead, I recently changed this to, are you feeling more confident now than when you joined Rebrand? I don't need a number. I just need to know, are you more confident now? And so that's been really cool, because every single time they hit yes, because they just booked that 4-figure session. And then I ask them about any wins. And this is maybe a section that you and I could talk about, because I've debated if that needs to be something different and like more specific. But that just gives them room to tell me, how did they book this session? Or is this like a new client? Or what are they excited about? That sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't mind that being a more qualitative section, because you have the quantitative stuff above that really matters. Like invoice total,
Cool.
this on the back end of Airtable, this is a currency field that matters, which we'll show you guys in the dashboard in a second. The averages, the totals, all of that stuff. And what date were these clients booked? That's going to help. The one thing I would maybe add, which you might not need to do this, but your program promise is like without working nights and weekends. So I'd be
Yeah.
curious to be like, when is the session? Like, is it on a weekday? Even if it's just like a weekday morning or a weekday evening or a weekend, like, so then you can see like all of their stuff is like weekdays in the morning instead of nights and weekends. So
I wondered about that.
I don't
Cool.
see that part. And I would assume most brand photography anyways is in the daytime during the week, but
Yeah.
that's just something that you might want to add. But other than that, I think the form is great.
Cool.
Cool. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So this is something that Maddie has her clients, anytime that her clients book a brand photography gig, they fill out this form.
Mm-hmm.
How are you getting people to fill out this form? And like, how are you incentivizing people currently to fill this out?
So our community hub is Slack. So I'm popping into Slack at least on a weekly basis to talk about the booking tracker, and I usually bring it up on our weekly calls as well. And it's in the emails. It's in a lot of places, and I'm reminding them. Fill out the booking tracker. It doesn't matter how large the project was. Like, we want to celebrate every single win. And then I'm also reminding them of our collective goal. So each cohort has a goal of $100,000 booked with brand photography in the
Love that.
like 4-month period that we're together. And I would love to increase that. But the last cohort hit about 100. The goal was 100,000. And then they hit like just shy of 130. So I'm going to do 100K again, because this group is a little smaller, and kind of see where it nets out. So I'm reminding them of like, this is our collective goal. And then also, when they get their first 4-figure brand session, they get a code for a free sweatshirt that says on brand. And they get very excited about the sweatshirts.
Beautiful. That's all chef's kiss. So when you have a tracking form like this, that's the first step, is to have a program that has a trackable promise, right? But then you have to actually get people to fill out this form, and your form is very short and sweet and to the point, which incentivizes people to fill it out. But we also really encourage you to plaster your program, which it seems like you're doing. It's like, talk about it in Slack, talk about it in the calls. Having a collective goal that everybody's working towards also incentivizes people to fill out the form. And then when they hit a milestone, they get a sweatshirt. Like, all of those things are great. We're going to brainstorm even more ways you can get more people to fill it out on this live. But you'd said that you got a collective of $130,000 in a cohort. I want to see your back end tracking metrics, because that stuff is really cool to see in Airtable, and I know people are going to freak out.
It's so cool. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so this is my dashboard. It says onboarding trends, but that's not accurate. So this is all time. I started tracking in the last cohort, which kicked off in like February, I think, February or March. So this is essentially from the beginning of the year, not quite. So the amount of total brand photography booked across like 1.5 cohorts is 141,000. 65% are filling it out. The average brand session booked is just over $1,000. That's great because that's what the program promises, but I would love
Yep.
to see that increase. And so this is so cool because it sheds light on like, okay, if I want the average brand session book to be more like 2,000, which is the cost of the program, where in the curriculum do I need to change things or tweak things or whatever, which I wouldn't know. I wouldn't have that data without this. And then the average brand photography booked per client is 3,000. So again, I want to increase that, but it's
Cool.
also reassuring because that's more than the cost of the program. So that's great. Yeah.
This is awesome. And I
63
love too
days.
that I like the marketing of, okay, the program is 2,000, pay off the program with one session. And this is what data helps you with. It's like, okay, if my program promise is X, how do I increase my, like, how to make the curriculum better? Like, what resources do I need to add to like really increase the results that are inside of the program? So using the data instead of like, oh, the group is quiet, so let me add another one-on-one call to like, or like another group call. Like it's not based on vibes, which I love. There's just so much data in here. And the 63 average days to achieve the program promise, also really helpful, because a lot of the times we
Totally.
say like, do this in 90 days, but you have no idea actually how quickly people are getting through your program. So this is really cool to see.
Yes, I love that because that's about half of the program. So the fact that most of them take just half the program to do it, and then the rest of the time they have to like increase the price of a brand session and all of that. Like it's so helpful to know.
Yes. Okay, fantastic. So you've already got some of the basics, which is plastering your program, making sure people are submitting it. About, we have 65%. We want to get that higher to probably, like, I'd love to shoot for 75 or 80. You've got
Yes.
the incentive of the sweatshirt. You've got reminding people about a collective goal. There is one other lever that we can pull, and I think we can brainstorm a way that is low lift for you, and that's adding in like a program like a rewards club or something like that, where you get an
Yes.
additional, you get something extra when you complete the program promise. So for you, when do they get the sweatshirt? Is it when they get their first four-figure
Four
gift?
figure session.
Okay, cool. Now you could, the sweatshirt could be incentive enough for that level, or you could say once you book 2 to 5, like whatever that next metric is, then they can get into another layer of the program. And depending on your energy levels, there's a couple different ways you can do it. So I'll
Okay.
share with you. One, you can have a directory. So like there's directories, like there's publicity that people could get. That's something easy. So like if you've booked 3 or more sessions, you get into our Rebrand directory that is public facing. You could do that. You could do one-on-one milestone calls, which I know you've said you don't want to do because you don't like one-on-one calls. But for anybody who one-on-one calls are exciting for people, you could automate that. So it's literally like
Yep.
anytime someone hits that extra level, Airtable is just going to send an automation that says, hey, you get the directory, or you get the one-on-one call. Or there is another way you can do it, is just having like another module that's like for more advanced. So it's like how to get to
Yeah.
5-figure brand photography, or like what would be the next kind of like level people, like more advanced, that is going to overwhelm the beginners that haven't hit the program promise. So you make that curriculum once, and then they get to unlock extra bonuses and resources based on those things. Like what direction would you want to go?
Okay, I love the idea of the directory. That's really exciting to me. I think that that could be really fun. Um, I'm also not necessarily basically all of these sound really great, so I'm gonna have to think about this. I'm not necessarily opposed to one-on-ones if there's like a filter, right? Like when I have not when one-on-ones have been really taxing in the past, it's because I'm trying to do like 30 one-on-ones in a month and I just am dying. But if it's something where like you get a one-on-one after you've booked $5,000 worth of brand photography or something like that, that feels more doable. I also, what are your thoughts on doing like monthly, everyone who filled out the tracker, no matter what the amount was, just like here's a reward for filling out the tracker, is entered to win something? A one-on-one, another piece of swag, a gift card. Have you seen that done?
I haven't. I've seen it. And I've seen it, and I think it works for a very specific type of person. But what I
Okay.
actually have found is more people are doing, and I think it's getting more results, is if you fill out the results tracker once this month, you get like an extra bonus one-on-one like review. So what that means is like,
Got it.
okay, send us your like proposal, and like we're only going to review the proposal if you filled out the tracker. So there's
Got
like
it.
this incentive that you get an extra review or something, so it helps them, like it incentivizes that way. You could play with, I've also never really seen anybody do like the sweatshirt giveaway. So if people like, they like these different, it really just depends on like who your people are and what they're going to respond best to. If they're business owners, I find that review, or like if you like put your website in, and we'll just do a quick audit of your like a 2-minute Loom video and send you like 3 things you could work on your sales page, or like having something like that incentivizes people, because it's like more support to achieve the program promise than like a potential like, for me personally, I'm like, I'm never going to win a giveaway. And so
that's so true. That's my same mindset.
But I'm like, okay, if I fill this out, I know I'm going to get a review. So I would err more on that side. But there truly are so many different options.
Yeah. I think the one that probably makes the most sense, it's going to involve a curriculum refresh, which I am working on anyway. But one of the things that I am realizing is that there's some information that's like front loaded in the curriculum that's pretty technical. And the more that I run this program, the more that I'm realizing they don't need that in the beginning. They need that when they're more scaling. In the beginning, they need a win. They need to book brand photography. And so I think that it could be interesting to move some of that more technical stuff behind like a bit of a gate. So then that's available for the people who are more ready for it.
Yeah. I would say that you have the book, the 4-figure. I would say if you want to have the next round be like ROI Club, like if you once you hit $2,000 in brand photography, like you've paid off the course of the cost of this program. Now let's keep going. So you can also start to track that, like X amount of people pay it off within 40 days with two clients, or the average of 3 clients, because that was something that you mentioned wanting to track. So I would maybe play with that as the metric for the next unlocking.
Cool.
Because they want to, and then they can't then everything after that, it's like you've already paid for the cost of the program. Like it just is like, it's like ROI then gets stacked. I would like that idea. What are your thoughts on that?
I really like that. I like that a lot. I love the ROI Club, because that's always a question when you're launching, right? Is like, well, how quickly can I pay this off? Or I don't know if I have the money to do this right now. So the more that I can say the program pays for itself and like actually have data around that, again, not just vibes. I like that a lot.
Yeah. ROI Club. Okay, let's roll with that. And then let's roll with, okay, so directory. Do you have a directory yet? Or what is, your people are all over the country, all over the world. Where are they at?
They're all over the country, and I have a handful of Canadian clients. I have a Spanish client, but mostly US and Canada.
Okay. I think a directory would be interesting, because it also, I think that we could play with. It's very easy to build an Airtable. Like my brain is already like figuring out how to build it in Airtable. Once they hit $2,000 in bookings, Airtable automatically tallies. It connects it to, for those who don't know, it's connecting it to their student profile. So if they submit a $900 one and an $1,100 one, it's going to tie to their central client profile, and it'll calculate like they made 2,000 if I did my math right. Then Airtable on the back end can say, okay, Ashley hit 2,000, automatically send her an email that says, hey, Ashley, you did it. You're eligible for the ROI Club. Here is a link to a form to be entered into our directory. And it's an Airtable form. And then it would fill out whatever the questions are that you want forward facing in the directory. So obviously their name, their website, the type of brand photography they do. Airtable does attachments, so they can upload an attachment or even like pictures of their work to get like a style vibe. So they can fill that out. And then you can literally Airtable has different views. So you can embed a gallery view right into your website, and it can literally show off all of the people. So you could review it and say, I want to change the status to like put live in directory, and then it would automatically be there. So it'd be very low lift for you. And then if we say it's live in directory, Airtable can send an automation that says, if it's live in the directory, say, hey, you're now live in our directory. Go to rebrand.com/directory to go see your profile. So that could be a cool thing to add.
That. I have had just a couple of people, and I thought it was the sweetest like message, who said, I either want to work with you as a brand photographer or someone that you've taught. Do you have like a list of people? And I was like, first of all, coolest question I've ever been asked. Second of all, no, but I should. Like, that's a cool idea.
Yeah, because I get that too, where people are like, especially like people want brand photographers, and then you become, you are like the influencer in the space of like, only work with like these people are vetted, their pricing will be like, their pricing is solid, their skill sets are solid, like these are the people to work with, and it adds more credibility. And it's like, okay, for people who are wondering if the program works, like go chat with the people in the directory and like ask them questions, anything like that. I'm going to share my screen really quick just to, just build it quickly so you can see the energy. Okay, so this is the back end of Airtable, y'all. So I would say like headshot here. Let's say style. Well, we'll do a style. So there would just be a form, and then let's say country. The one thing that you'd have to do, Maddie, is I would bring in like a single select of like all of the states. Just so people can filter. I'm going to say Washington, California, just for now. So we've got that, right? And then we'd have a form. There's lots of different ways you can do forms in Airtable, but I'll just make the quick and dirty one. So it would be the clients. Great. So I'm going to copy this. I just want to get some dates. So I'm going to say Ashley Rose, my headshot. They can just upload right into Airtable. It's super easy. Their country is the United States. They're from Washington. Obviously, you would add more details than that. But let's then have a gallery. We're going to say forward facing on website. And in the grid view back here, let's have a status that is to review and another that's live in directory. So this one would be to review. So you could look at it and be like, yep, she's vetted, live in directory, right? And then your gallery, we would want to filter this to only show where the status is live in directory. So that's just Ashley. Yep. And then we'd have her details. So like country, state, and then they'd have website too. I'm going to show a little Airtable hack. So this would be the website. So they would fill this out on the form. Systemsoverstress.co. But Airtable has a field called button. And what you can do, it gives a little aesthetic.
Cool.
Website. And say go to website. So then on the forward facing on the website, you could have on the card the website. That's totally fine. But with the button, you have like a literal button that goes like that. So then you would just go to share screen, embed this view, and you would pop this right into your show it page, whatever. And what's cool about Airtable and these views is that they can filter. The client can filter to say, I want to see where state is Washington, and it would only show those people. But they can't filter out, so they can't like see any back end things that you have. Like they can't unhide like certain fields. So this is really super easy. Yeah, so I would play with that. I would do the ROI Club once they hit 2K. And I'm sure you have people that are already in the ROI Club. So you could filter down and say like, all right, here's everybody that's made 2K or more. They're automatically in. Have them fill out the directory. So that's going to be populated as soon as you'd like. And then you can also shout out people on your calls or automate it into Slack of like, Ashley just joined the ROI Club. Like, as a reminder, keeps like submitting to be in the directory and be included and all of those things. I would start with that. And then you could also add having in the ROI Club that move that more technical course material. Where is your course hosted? Learn. Okay, cool. Easy to do with Learn. You'll just like have a tag that like gets added to them and unlocks different like bonus modules. So you can do that as well.
I like both. Yeah, I like this a lot. I feel like it will be like it feels like a big change to the program, but like to do it is so simple. Like setting up this directory and like rearranging some stuff in Learn would be like so easy.
Yeah, it's going to be a super low lift thing to do, but but because you've already have the groundwork, you already have the Airtable primary client records, you already have the onboarding forms, the tracking forms. It's just adding in one extra form and setting that up. So it's because of all of the work that you did on the like throughout the time of the programs to make it easy to start to like play with these things.
Totally. Yeah, because even when you were talking about the email automation, like I already have a lot of that set up for the 4 figures, like that says, you've now booked $3,000 with brand photography from everything that I did in Systems Over Stress. And so now to just add one for the ROI Club would be so simple.
Yeah, and then so for folks who don't know about Airtable, I know, Maddie, you could set up one of these automations in your sleep now, but Airtable has internal automation. So you can do all of this without an external like Zapier account. But you'd say when a form is submitted, the form is this one, then you can literally send them a Gmail email here, and you set up your account. The 2 would be to the email that they submit and say like, yay, your thanks for submitting your directory profile, and then say like, we'll review it in 2 days, like whatever it needs to be. A lot of those, all those little automations can totally be set up. And I want to make sure, Maddie, too, that you have, because this is something else that helps people fill it out, is if they haven't filled out your tracking form in 2 weeks, a month, or whatever, having automation sent to remind them. Do you have something like that set up?
No, but I should.
Okay, let me show you how to do that. Okay. So what you do is... So first up, you're going to have to make sure your form has a submit your name from a drop-down, the primary student record. We'll do that here. So here is, let's say this is test person 6's form, right? I'm going to name this directory. Well, I'll name it like results tracking. Let's pretend this is your results tracking form.
Okay.
So in your primary student record, if you show your table that it's linked to, so this is your results tracking. So you'll see that test person 6 has a results tracking form filled out. If you create, it's called, we can do a lookup field. So we'll say last submitted tracking form date. We do a lookup. We go to results tracking. You're going to choose... One second. Actually, you've got to make sure that over in your results tracking, you have the created or submitted time. Created time. So that's just going to bring automatically the time that the form was created. And that's going to be pre-saved. So even if you don't have that yet, it'll be historical. So we go back here. Last form submitted. Date. Roll up. Look up. Results tracking. We're going to pick the date, submitted time, and we'll say limit to the last one. So this is like the last one that they submitted. So that's 8/5, right? So that's 8/5. So then we say when a record matches a condition in your primary student record, when the last submitted date is, let's say, number of days ago, 14 days ago, 28 days ago.
This is so cool.
When it hits that date, then you say, we bring in their email. Where are you at? Obviously, you wouldn't say that, but hey, and then you can say, hey, first name, Maddie here. It looks like it's been 2 weeks, whatever, here's the form. And that will automatically send to them. So that's something else that I would add just to incentivize people. That happens a lot. Like we see great results. It's like somebody will be like, oh, right, whoops, I forgot to fill it out. Like, let me fill it out right away. So it's like they get the email and then they fill out the form. So that can increase as well. So I'd recommend setting up that automation too.
I really like the idea of this given what it is they're tracking, because if it's been 2 weeks and they like legitimately haven't booked a session in that amount of time, then they should also come to Slack for coaching. So like that's a really good trigger.
Put that in there too. Let's say if you haven't booked a client in 2 weeks, like let's get you booked, come to Slack, let us know. We're not going to judge you. Like, it's like, this is the time to like lean into coaching even more. Like
Love that.
Use it as like a door to open for communication and more support.
Totally. Oh, I love it. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we gave you a couple things to work on. Yeah. How are you feeling?
This is amazing. I'm just like, I've always been proud of this program, but since going through Systems Over Stress, I'm like just mega proud of it because I have the data to be able to say like, this is working, and there are people whose businesses are better because of the support that they've gotten in this program and what they've learned in this program. And honestly, like even the data now brings so much clarity to like what I need to do next to be able to look at the numbers and say, okay, I want that to be higher, or I want the completion rate to be more. And now it's so much easier because of Airtable for me to go, add in an extra email automation or more support or whatever. There's a million different things to make those numbers trend better and better, every time I run a cohort.
Totally. And that's where I think I love cohort models are so interesting because you get to like be like, okay, here's what the last like cohort's results were, and just like being laser focused on like how do we get them better and better. And so often if you're not using Airtable, the last cohort's details are just like they're kind of like lost, they're like gone with the wind.
Totally.
You're able to track them and compare them side by side, and the fact that you're like, oh, this cohort is smaller, how your cohorts are trending in terms of sales, in terms of like client numbers inside the cohorts themselves. And so if you're running a group program, cohort or not, you absolutely have to have Airtable to really do these types of things.
Yeah. Well, and mine is like particularly complicated. I actually went to a Airtable office hours that you guys hosted a couple of weeks ago because with this most recent cohort, I added in, they get to stay in the program until they charge 4 figures, like as part of the program promise. So if they have not yet charged 4 figures, they don't have to pay again. They can stay in until they do it. And so then cohort tracking was getting just really complicated because it like, what date are you filling this out and what cohort are you in?
Right.
Not necessarily the cohort you came in on, but the current one. So I was amazed at the fact that with just like a few tweaks in Airtable with how it's being tracked, like now I can so clearly see this was cohort 4 and this was cohort 5 and it's separate. And without Airtable, I didn't have a prayer to be able to do that.
No, and you can't do these like interesting ideas that you have like when you're in the shower of like, oh, could I do like, what if I didn't let like people were allowed to stay until they booked, like those types of things are just a lot easier to execute. And you were not an Airtable expert before you joined
Systems
Over Stress, and you're able to think about this. Yeah.
I had never heard of the program until our mutual friend Coley James was like, you need Airtable and you need Ashley. Like if I can do it, and I also like, I consider myself a smart person, but I get very overwhelmed with new technology. So if I can do this, literally anybody can do this. That is like, cannot be understated.
I know. It's like, it's so cool to be like, okay, set up these automations, set up a directory, embed it, and you're like, cool, got it. Yep. Like just you're able to like go and run with it, which is awesome. And that's like what I want you, and that's like the purpose of my work is I want y'all to feel empowered to be able to build these systems on yourself and know how it works and know how it all goes together. You don't need to know how to code. You don't need like a full-time systems developer on your team to actually build out these things that are really incredible and really robust.
Totally. Yeah. And I think you're right. Like you talk about this being the new gold standard for group programs, and you're spot on. I think that people are becoming just more savvy with how they're spending their dollars when it comes to the coaching industry. And if you don't have the actual receipts to show people beyond the Slack messages and beyond the emails and all of that, like you need the data, and Airtable allows you to actually have that.
Yeah, and let me go back to your I'm gonna go back to your sales page just because there's things that you have on the sales page, which like a lot of people have, which is great. And I don't think you have uh
Yeah.
Slack, like you have Slack screenshots, fantastic. You have people like testimonials, and like those things are cool and great, but then there's just like a lot of people have Slack testimonials, a lot of people have these like I love Maddie type of testimonials, but this data and the data tracking is really what's going to take, like just takes your like legitimacy to the next level. I think especially with cold leads, as we're starting to like, if you ever start to play with ads or just like have more cold leads, this data is really what's going to take people, like I think takes it to the next level for sure.
Yeah, I think it shows that you're not just highlighting your very best students, like you're collectively showing like what did the group do as a whole, and people are
Yeah.
looking for that.
And I don't know if you've experienced this either, but sometimes we have clients who someone comes into their email with a very specific objection of like, well, I'm in we have a dating coach, and she's like, well, I'm in Nebraska and I can't, there's no one to date here. And it's like, do they pull up their metrics and they're like, well, actually we have like 10% of our people are from Nebraska, and here's how much, like here's what their results are, so you can get even more niche, like because it's all there and you can cut it up in a bunch of different ways. I mean, y'all saw Maddie's like very like numbers heavy dashboard. Any question that she has about her program or her cohorts, she can create a dashboard like that in just a couple minutes in Airtable and see the numbers that she needs to see.
Yeah, one of the things, or I guess a couple of the things that we track that are kind of in that vein are when they come into the program, are they already shooting brand photography or are they brand new to it?
Yep.
Because that's been a specific question that I've gotten. That's in the onboarding. Yep.
Yep.
And then what's the other one? Oh, the amount. I think that's in there somewhere.
What is your gross revenue in business so far? Here.
No, scroll up a little bit. I wonder if it's a
Maybe it's this, you said yes. Okay. Yeah. It's
yeah, the rate.
conditional. Yeah.
Yep. So like when you come into the program, what rate are you looking at versus what rate are you looking at when you leave? And that's actually something that I kind of forgot about this, but that was one of the first things that I learned from doing this tracking was that they were actually booking at a pretty good hourly rate, but notoriously cannot sell more than an hour. So now I know,
Oh,
like,
interesting.
okay, that's something that we need to make sure that they're learning inside the program. Like, how do you tell your clients, no, actually a 3 hour session is more valuable and here's why? And
Yep.
because yeah, so that was
Yeah,
like I
like
wouldn't
how
have
do
known that.
you, and that's helpful too, of like, okay, clearly they're getting stuck at some point, so how can we help the increase the curriculum to help them get unstuck? The one thing I would add to your onboarding is how many weekends, like if there's 52 weekends in a year, how many weekends are
Ooh,
you working? How many like what's your, because you're asking how many hours per week do you work on average, but I'd love to see this person worked, because I know working on weekends as a wedding photographer is such a big deal. It's like they were booking like every weekend they were booked. Now they have replaced or exceeded that income, and half of their weekends are now free. Like
I
having that in
love
your
that.
onboarding is going to be important to have.
Smart. I like that.
Cool. Great. Well, Maddie, this was so fun. Okay, what are your next steps? What are your deadlines? I'm following up with you.
Okay,
When do we
okay.
all get to see that directory on your page?
Yeah, I think I'm going to set the directory up this week.
Great.
I feel like that's an easy thing, like very low lift that I can do. And I already have a handful of people who would be like so perfect for that and have already booked more than $2,000 with brand photography. So I think that's going to happen this week because that'll be a really easy one. And then I would say before the launch of the next program, which that's plenty of time, it's in November, I'm going to do some
Awesome.
curriculum rearranging to add in the ROI Club.
Beautiful. I love that plan. Yeah, that's a great the directory is so low lift, and then
Mm-hmm.
introducing the ROI Club is gonna, and introducing something like that is fun. before our launch, because it kind of reinvigorates people as well. Like there's like new curriculum for them to go through, and it just like the energy of the group kind of picks up again if it's been a little slow. So that's perfect timing.
Totally. And I do typically have, I would need to look at the data, but I have a decent percentage of people who re-enroll. And so making changes to the curriculum and the program and the rewards and all of that, I think gets them to re-enroll.
Awesome. Yay. I love
Yay.
that.
Thank you so much. I love this homework. I'm so excited about my
Yay.
homework.
Well, keep us updated. We'll be looking, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashley.